Hi guys, it's Debbie, or Dealer4519 on YouTube. Hang with me today for a few reasons. And I'll probably do backtracking in my next video, as well as this one, for things I probably didn't stress enough or might have forgotten. One of the reasons is because 367 days ago, I lost my best friend named Scooby. He had tumors, and finally he was bothered by them, and I had to do what I said I could never do, and send him to the Rainbow Bridge. You'd think after 1 year and 2 days I'd be over that, but when you get the best dog, you don't get over that. Anyway, let me move on. So, I talked about spending most of my 9th grade year living with the Adams. And I'm believing that their daughters' names were Peggy, Nancy, and Sally. That just came to me out of nowhere, so I could be wrong. But I'm pretty sure the middle daughter being Nancy. Anyway, hang in with me. Okay, I can see now. I don't look like I usually do, and I didn't dress up for this video because I have surgery on Thursday. And although today is Monday, it's not going to be any fun, and I'm not having fun thinking about that. That's the second reason I want you to bear with me today. Now, on with the story. So the 9th grade, we went to high school, which means there were 3 middle schools all thrown together in one building. And some of our classes we had to walk over to other buildings, but basically most of our classes were in one building. And for some reason, when we picked our schedules way before, I decided I wanted to take general business. I loved that class. I loved the teacher for that class, though I can't remember his name right now. He was a wonderful guy, big old scary guy. And I am now, and probably was then, 5'9". So when I tell you he was a big old scary guy, he was a big old scary guy. And I remember on the first day of class, he said, "I'm going to call out your names, and when I do, I want you to tell me the name you want to be called." Of course, that he called out first, middle, and last. And I'm at the end of the alphabet. And he finally gets to me, and maybe I wasn't paying attention, or maybe it startled me, but he called me Deborah, and I said Debbie, and that's how he remembered me for the rest of the school year, based on the fact that I just yelled the name out that I wanted to be called. I wasn't mad. It's just how it came out. We had a great teacher-student relationship, but he always picked on me for that. I had choir first hour, and I loved that class, and I loved my teacher. She was an ex-opera singer. Very, very nice lady. I've heard bad things about her over the years after I left, but I don't care, because it's about what you learned from these people, what they taught you, and that's what matters. So each student definitely has their own set of memories. And my English teacher, Mr. Ochoa, was such a good guy. And he found out early on that I was reading at a level that was, way grown up. So he'd have me go to the library, which really was across the hall from his class, and order books. He'd give me a list, and he'd say, order these, and have them sent over from the big high school, which was the big building. We were in a smaller building in the 9th grade. He'd say, go over there and order these, and have them sent over, and, read these. And I did. Well, winter went by, and we had a court date in March, and all kinds of things were supposed to happen. I remember that we were going to competition, and maybe that fell on my birthday, which was March 7th. And I guess the court date was right before it, the 5th or 6th. And before I left for court, because the foster mother didn't take me, the social worker picked me up. But before I left for court, I'd had some good visits with my mom. The courts eventually somehow gave me like weekends, I think. And I got to spend Saturday to Sunday, like, 36 hours or something over there. But before I left, my foster mother said, I hope you don't go home before your birthday. And I didn't know what that meant, but of course I wanted to go home because I wanted to believe that everything was going to be better and that things were going to change, and that's what I wanted to believe. And of course every child wants to believe that. So when the judge asked me what I wanted to do, I said I wanted to go home. And Judge Kickbush was his name, and he said, if I send you home this time, I hope I never see you in my court again. Well, that's scary. But I wanted to go home. And I stuck with my, I want to go home. And I did. But he sent me home that day. So the social worker took me to the Adams to pick up my things. And Kay was so upset, so very, very upset. She said, I really didn't want you to go home before your birthday. Why do you have to go home before your birthday? And, well, this is Cookie. Hi, Cookie. Say hi. All right. Good boy. Now get down. Anyway, so I didn't know why, I had to go home for my birthday. I just wanted to go home. I was worn out. Oh, yes, I forgot this part. So remember I told you I had to wear dress pants and dress shirts to school every day, or dresses or something? Well, I had smuggled some Levi's out of my mother's house. Well, not really smuggled, actually. I think I just took them with me. They were mine. And my friend Kim would bring them to school, and I would change in the bathroom when I got to school, spend my day there in my Levi's, change after school. So that I didn't have to look like, I don't know. What did you equate back in the 80s with people in dresses? I don't know. But I didn't like it. I did it when I had to. But if I didn't have to, I didn't do it. So there were t-shirts and blue jeans being smuggled in, and I would take them off, put them back in my locker, send them home with her at the end of the week. They'd wash them, bring them back. Anyway, it was tough. It was tough being me in the 80s. But anyway, I went home right before my birthday. And I guess this was, I'm losing track of years here. 82. Maybe, March of 83, maybe. No, I don't know. I lost track. But anyway. And things went back to normal, except I had dress clothes, and I got to keep all the clothes that the state had paid for. So I didn't have those before, so I got to keep those and wear those when I wanted to. And I got a lot of stuff, but I missed church. I didn't get to go to church. And there was a church right down the road that I ended up going to beyond this point. It was Grace Church of the Nazarene in Portage, Indiana. Now it's Grace Church in Portage, Indiana. Same pastor, I think, that's there now was the man who was there when I was 15, 16, and I started going. His name was Mark, and a wonderful, wonderful man. Great pastor. But anyway, he saw me through some tough times, which we're going to get to shortly. So, right after my freshman year, well, actually, right before my freshman year ended, in April, my mother bought a house in another city nearby. But I was almost through with my school year, and I really didn't want to change schools in the middle of the year. So, I went to stay with some friends of hers, and I met a wonderful man. Well, we were kids. He was a great 17-year-old named Bob Smith. I'm not making that name up. That name will come back later. And we dated for a while. We were very good friends. And years later, when he needed a job, I got him one. And we'll go into that when we get to that time period. But after school let out, I moved back with my mother in Lake Station and started my new life in a new house with a new room. And I met a lot of wonderful people. And I can't really name them all, but there were some wonderful people there. People I'd known. Remember, I started off school in Lake Station, and you wouldn't think you'd remember from the 2nd grade to the 10th grade, but you don't forget who your friends were. So I found them pretty quick. It was people like Lisa Grinder, and it's not her name now, Angie, and I can't remember her other name, but Garrison, Angie Garrison, which is not her name now. Mindy, there was Mindy. And I followed some friends who had moved previously. My friend Kathy had moved. And it wasn't as hard as going to a brand new school when you knew a few people from before. It really wasn't. It was during this period of time that my life took just a off-the-wall turn. But keep in mind that when I moved, I was in a new county. And I was in the county that Gary, Indiana is in. And under no circumstances was I ever going to go to a foster home in Lake County, Indiana. No. There was a lot of crime in Gary. And all you ever heard were bad things about Gary, because it bordered Chicagoland, and, you know, it could have happened on the line between Chicago and Gary, but it was reported as happening in both places. That was kind of rough. So I was never gonna, and it was a big county. In fact, I think it's the biggest county in Indiana, Lake County. But I, under no circumstances was going to go to a foster home there. I'd already made up my mind. I made up my mind before I ever went back to my mother's that when she closed on the house, I was not going to, it's not going to happen. I was not going to do it. So, I started the 10th grade there, and I met a wonderful friend. Her name was Carol Epley. And we connected years later, and we lost each other. Then she hired a PI to find me. And she did find me. I got an email from a PI. It said, I got a lady looking for you. Her name is, and he gave me her married name. And I knew somehow, and I said, well, find out if before you give her my information, if her maiden name was Epley, then yeah, give her all the information she needs to get a hold of me. And within a day, I got a letter from her, an email, and then a phone call. And pretty soon, we were just caught back up. And I was living in South Carolina, and she was living in Georgia, right outside Atlanta, toward the Alabama side, actually. And that was pretty great. Anyway, I'm going to carry this on in another video because I have a lot of memories. By the way, Carol's not with us anymore. She died several years ago. She was having some digestive issues. I'm going in the hospital for that. She went to the hospital 4 or 5 times. They sent her home. Finally, they told her she had cancer, which is another reason I'm upset today, because I don't know what they're going to find when I go in on the 8th. I just know that I'm scared because she thought she'd be okay. And she found out she had cancer. The doctor told her to get her affairs in order, and she died like within 3 days. And all of that I got from her mother-in-law after she died, because she called me specifically and told me she was okay and I didn't have to go to Georgia. That was hard to swallow. So from, 15 to 40-something, well, yeah, 40-something, we were great friends. And I miss her terribly, too. But that's just the first of several people I've lost to cancer in my lifetime. Y'all have a good night, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.